Hi guys, my name is Giovannie Espiritu. I am an award-winning filmmaker, actor, producer, and acting coach. I do all the things. So I got into acting in a very weird way, and you could look this up online all over the place. I'm pretty open about it. So I was in a cult when I was younger, and when I was in the wilderness waiting for Jesus to come, my ex-husband quit his job because he was waiting for Jesus to come, right? And I had a 1-year-old, and I was like, oh no, how am I going to put food on the table type of thing? And the sad part of this, or the funny part of this, is that I used to try to keep telemarketers on the phone for as long as I could because they were like my friends in the wilderness, because there was like really nobody around. So I would honestly try to keep them on the phone for as long as I could. And then one of them was like, you have a very interesting voice. You should get into voiceovers. And I was like, I have no idea what voiceovers is. So I looked it up on the very, very new internet. This is way in the dial-up days. And the very first thing that popped up was Stars the Agency, which is an agency in San Francisco. And so I called them up and I asked them, what is voiceovers? And there was something about like, you send in like a submission or something like that. And I put together this really stupid recording. And I sent it in. They ended up calling me for an interview. We drove 4 hours from Grizzly Flats to San Francisco. I went in for that interview. They signed me to the agency that day. They sent me out on my first audition for a video game, and they ended up booking it. And remember, I was in a cult at this time, and it was like a biblical cult, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a sign from God. And that's how I started my journey into voiceovers. It was more money than I had ever made, because I think at that time the rates were like $250 an hour with a 2-hour minimum for a video game. And I was like, okay, God, here I am. So that's how I started in the industry. You know, I was still living in Grizzly Flats, and I was getting all of these voiceover auditions, and I was booking them. And remember, my ex quit his job at the time, so he allowed me to pursue this thing. And then my agents at Stars were like, you know, we actually want to get you in front of the camera because they're agents. They want to make money for as many ways as possible, right? That's the reason why we'll sign you. So they were like, we want you to take this class. And it was a on-camera class, right? And because it was recommended by my agent, I was allowed to do that, right? So I started going to this class, and I'm very much not the person that you see in front of you. When back then, this was like 20 years ago, I was even more shy, could not talk to anybody. And through this class, like people, you know, were like kind of weirded out by me. And I thought it was just because I was weird. But it was because of the fact that, you know, every time that the class was done, you know, I would have to run downstairs to get picked up by my ex. Otherwise, I'd get in trouble, you know. And it was through this class that people started to be concerned about me and, you know, gave me something like a book that was called Free Yourself from Abusive Relationships. So in my brain, I wasn't even like in an abusive relationship. I was in a marriage, right? But through this acting class, I was introduced to like, oh, maybe you're in an abusive relationship. And, you know, like I got out of that because people were concerned about me. Which is so weird, right? Like, this is like, you know, it's an interesting thing. And then through that acting class, too, I was able to get an agent in Los Angeles, you know, 8 months after starting. And then I think within like a year, I had booked ER, and ER was my first big gig. It was a recurring role on ER. I was on there for 4 episodes, and I got my SAG card through that. So, like, I really feel like this is like, it was such like a weird start to the industry, you know? And then I lived in the Bay Area until 2016. So Bay Area acting work and LA acting work is very different industries. So I always like to say, like, I had like a very cute homey start to the business, you know. And then like when I got to LA in 2016, even though I had been working back and forth and like flying down to LA for work while I lived in the Bay Area, it wasn't until 2016 that I saw how absolutely like ruthless the industry is and how like people are. It's just such a different industry. And honestly, if anybody out there wants to get into it, you need to find your people. You need to find groups and communities that honestly lift you up, that will be grounded with you and like help you keep your soul. One of my guiding things when I was going out of the religion, right, going out of the cult, because it was a cult. It was like it was an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And the Seventh-day Adventist Church is already super conservative, but then you get into like the home churches and like the doomsday stuff, and like your brain is like fried from all of this. But yeah, when I was starting to get out of it, I was just like, my guiding thing was like, okay, if I go towards love and compassion, I can't go wrong. Because people were telling me, you know, especially, you know, after leaving that relationship, that I was the bad one, right? Of course. You know, like, even so, like, I was exorcised by a pastor. Like, they literally, like, prayed over me, you know? And I was like, nothing's happening to me. Like, you know? And, like, the narrative was that I wasn't an obedient enough wife type of thing. So, like, I have a lot of, like, about organized religion because of that. Because it justified the abuse just because he was the head of the household, you know. But yeah, like, my guiding principle is like, I can't go wrong if I go towards love and compassion, right? Like, I have a lot of like Buddhist friends that I love, you know, like a lot of friends that don't even believe in God. Even though like I have a partner that I've been with for like, it's going to be 20 years in November. It's a very non-traditional relationship, because like I have my kid and I've never really relied on anybody else to take care of me and my kid, you know. And some days I wish that was different, but it's like that wasn't our circumstance, you know. Like, this person that I love too, you know, like he's in my life because I enjoy him and he has a good soul and he saves snails. But he was never there as a provider, and I've always had to do that. So, like, you know, like that's what kept me going, is that I've had to, like, always, like, put food on the table, keep a roof over our head. And the only way that I knew how to do that was through acting. Like, I honestly don't know anything else, and that's, like, a big thing for, like, imposter syndrome with me, is, like, I never went to college because I was in the cult, because I had a kid, you know, and it was, I tried sometimes. There was a year where my kid was going to Santa Monica College, like community college, and I tried to enroll at the same time, and I just couldn't make it happen. So like all of these single moms out there that like put themselves through college while they have children, I don't know how they did it, but I give so much like to them, because I tried for a year and then just did not work out. Like, fail so hard, you know, and that's okay, you know, like, that is okay. I love acting. Like, I fell in love with it because, like, I feel like if you do it rightly, I always say rightly in quotes, is that you increase empathy for people, for the world. Like, I really do believe that is a thing. And for a long time, the way that I sustained myself is because, you know, like the Bay Area, there's not a lot of acting work there, right? Like, even in LA, there's still not a lot of acting work for people like me. You know, it's only in the past 5 years that I've seen it kind of start to change with the Crazy Rich Asians, right? So sustainability in this life is kind of crazy. So what I did is I started teaching, right? Like, I started teaching acting, and I started teaching acting to the youths because they look like this, and also because I'm weird, right? So a lot of like kids kind of like me because I'm not afraid to be silly. So like what I've seen with kids, you know, like I always try to tell them acting is fun, right? And the industry of it is like you can just take it. I don't even care if you want to pursue this as an industry, but the heart opening that it teaches kids to do, the way that it helps people like see things from somebody else's perspective, I think that is so valuable. And also the fact that, you know, like something that people don't really know about me is that Pixar hired me to be the coach for Rosalie on Turning Red. So like, and one of the things that I think the reasons why they kind of picked me, well, I've been working for Pixar for a while, but one of my main things is that emotions are transient, right? Like there are no bad emotions, and kids need to be able to know that. Like when you have anger in your body, it's just telling you that something's important, you know, like there is some kind of like boundary that has been crossed. You know, if you have anger and it's not bad, like that's why like the whole like inside out thing I think is phenomenal. Like it's not a bad emotion, it just tells you what's important. And so you just need to be able to kind of transmit, like teach yourself to not like hit somebody back. You know what I mean? Like you have to teach yourself the like appropriate ways to deal with the anger, you know, but it's not bad. And I think for a long time as Asians and as women, we were taught that emotions are scary, and they're not.